everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney, and today I have a little answer to a question, really. Before we start, Gidget is sitting here with me. You gonna sit up and say hi? Oh, hi. Yes, we have a vet appointment today. She has her yearly checkup, so she's gonna get some shots later. We'll cover her ears so she doesn't hear that. But anyway, for today's video, I am frequently asked, and I get it, I'm frequently asked the question how I manage to sew so much, basically. How I manage to make so many things in a relatively short amount of time. My schedule, I have a lot of questions on that, on how I fit sewing into my schedule. Basically, you know, how I raise kids, take care of the house or whatever, and then also have time to sew as much as I do. So today I have 5 tips, I guess, for being more productive in your sewing, is how I'm gonna word that, I guess. I do have 3 disclaimers before I start, though. And then one kind of big thing that I'll say at the end. But before we get started, I wanted to add a little note. Number 1, thank you all so much for all of the love that you've been sending on the Vogue 1643 sew-along so far. I have part 2, I guess, you guys will be seeing on Sunday, and that's already up and ready to go. I'm playing around with filming angles. I'm actually getting a new phone today. I'm getting the iPhone 11. It's time for an upgrade. My husband and I, we literally keep our phones until they're almost non-functioning. And that's what our 7s have now almost become non-functioning. So anyway, we are getting new phones, and the iPhone 11 is, from what I hear, has really good filming capabilities, which I'm very excited about, to have a second camera. So I will have my DSLR and the iPhone to do some different angles and that kind of thing. Because the 11 also does a wide angle filming, which I think could be very helpful for some of the up close stuff, especially when I'm sitting at my sewing machine. So bear with me on that. Also, I filmed it one way for where you're gonna see it on Sunday, and then I'm currently filming part 3, and I've moved the camera angle. So again, this is all kind of a let's figure out the best angles type of learning process. So let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you would rather see, that kind of thing, and we will figure this out as we go along. But thank you for all the love so far. And I tried on the shell of the jacket today, and it looks so good. I'm so excited. So anyway, that's number 1. Number 2, Vlogmas. Okay, last year I took part in Vlogmas. I only had my YouTube channel for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months at that point, and I did do Vlogmas, and it was a lot of work, just having things every day. They weren't a lot, and then putting things up every day. However, I'm a member of the Sewing Vlogger support group on Facebook, and Laura from the Specky Seamstress has put together kind of a solution to that. So it is a sewing Vlogmas, but every day everyone has, we have 24 different people that are taking part to do a different vlog that will go up each day. So I will be filming mine on the 3rd, but it will go up on the 4th. So you'll get an extra video that week. And it's just gonna be like a vlog style, like you throughout the day. And each person will give the person that was the day before and also the person that's coming up. But I'm gonna pop a complete schedule down below. It'll be a great way. Again, it's 24 different sewing vloggers that are taking part, so it'll be a great way for you to find new people maybe to follow. And just a lot of fun. And so then you still get the Vlogmas experience without one sewing person having to film every single day. So that's kind of the thought with Vlogmas. So again, all that information is gonna be down below. Okay, let's get started. I made some notes. I wanted to make sure that I talked about everything that I wanted to talk about for this video. So if I'm glancing down, my computer is down here. All right, before we get started with these 5 tips, I wanna make 3 disclaimers. Number 1, I sew fast. A ton of people, you know, oh my gosh, I had just mentioned that I finished the 5 nightgowns that I made for the 5 women in my side of the family. So it's for my mom, myself, my sister, my niece, and my daughter, 5 matching nightgowns for the Sew Family Jammies. And I needed them done before we went home for Thanksgiving so that I could give those to my mom, sister, and niece while we were there, and so I could get pictures of all 5 of us together before we see each other at Christmas. And someone was asking, oh my gosh, how long did it take you to make 5? Well, we will get to that a little bit, and basically it's using all 5 of these tips, but number 1, I just want to say I sew fast. And I sew fast because I have worked in a sewing workroom, number 1, for other people, which if there's ever an incentive, you know, time is money, I had to learn to sew fast because my productivity determined someone else's income. I mean, I was paid for it. I, got an hourly wage, but, that also affected their bottom line, how fast I could sew. And then also I worked for myself for almost 4 years, 2014 to mid of 2018, so like 3.5 years. I worked for myself with my own custom sewing and alterations business, and once again, time is money, so I had to get fast. So that is one disclaimer that I just want to put out there. Number 2, I am very, very lucky in that I have a dedicated area. And why does that help? I can leave things out. So I can literally, I have a cutting table that's set up. So literally I have yardage that has been ironed that is ready to be cut, and it's just been laying on that cutting table since I laid it out yesterday. But I have space to do that. I know that that is not a luxury that a lot of people have. A lot of people are sewing on dining room tables where they have to put things away when they're done and then pull it all out, when it's ready to sew. That makes a huge difference because that's time, pulling things out, putting things back. That's definitely time away from the actual act of sewing. So I do have a dedicated space so I can do little bits at a time and I can leave things out basically. It's also in my basement so we can just shut the door if there's a horrible mess as well. So I do realize that is a luxury not everyone has. And number 3, this is my full-time job. So last summer, I decided to close the doors on my custom sewing and alterations business, mostly because doing alterations for others, it was definitely, probably about 70% of my business was alterations and about 30% was doing custom sewing for people. And while I enjoyed doing the custom sewing for people, I found that it didn't fuel me creatively because it was someone else's ideas, someone else's wants, that kind of thing. Again, I still sew for my family, which is still kind of like that, but my family listens to my input and they trust my creativity more than a client that's actually paying me to do that. And then the alterations, I just find to be a little bit soul-sucking. And I had done it for enough time. I don't even really like doing alterations on my own stuff, let alone on other people's. So the plan was to close the doors on there and to see if YouTube and maybe some spin-offs from YouTube could help replace that income. So this is, I say full-time, it's probably like a 3/4 time job right now. It's not part-time, it's not half-time, but probably getting close to full-time job, especially now that I've added this 3rd day, which is fine. My kids are getting old enough now. I need this in my life. So it's my full-time job. So I don't have another job that I do. I don't have another full-time job. This is what I do. This is what I make money, trying to replace that income of the business that I closed. So those are my 3 disclaimers. Just want to put those out there. So with that being said, my 5 tips for speedy sewing. All right. We'll go through the 5 tips and then I'll talk about kind of my typical day and what that kind of looks like. Because like I said, this is a full-time job, but it's very flexible because I'm also a mom and I do a lot of mom stuff and a homemaker, I guess you would call it. I don't know. The household duties fall to me. My husband's duties are more like the outside, the cars, that kind of things. So the way we've divided up the labor in our house, most of the cleaning, the cooking, and laundry and all that kind of stuff fall to me. So I'll talk about my daily schedule here at the end. All right, so tips for being more productive. Tip number 1, and I will write them out down here. Batch cutting and or sewing assembly style. So someone asked again how I got all those, how long it took me to do all 5 of those nightgowns. I cut them out in one fell swoop, all 5 of them. I laid everything out, cut them all out. Then the next day, I, did all the shoulder seams and attached, there's binding that goes around the neckline because it's got that wrap neckline, those namaste. I did all of that. And then I had to switch to cover stitch. It would have been so much better if I had separate cover stitch and serger machines, but I don't. I have to switch it over. So that's kind of how I did it. And, when you do things, if you're sewing 5 things, yes, it takes longer than sewing the one thing, but it's not 1 times 5. You know what I mean? Like if you're making 1, it doesn't take 5 times longer to make 5 at once. So that is also, I did some production sewing with my own business for a children's line. I did a lot of, I would do like batches of 50 of the same thing for this gal. And that really got me used to production line sewing, laying out your piles, getting everything done, keeping everything straight, doing all of one step, which can be I mean, I wouldn't want to do that all day, like working in a factory kind of, because I think that would get very soul crushing and very tedious. But when, I needed to knock out 5 nightgowns, that definitely works. But this also works if you are, so I was making pajamas also for my kids out of the sloth fabric that I showed you guys. Well, I just went ahead and cut out, my daughter's nightgown and my son's pants all at once, because I was using the same fabric and I would need the same color of thread on the machines. So even though that wasn't the same pattern, and I made the pants first and then I made the nightgown, I still batch cut. And I'll do that with quite a few projects. I've been doing a ton of pattern testing here recently, and I cut out a few of those, all at once, especially the ones that we're going to be using the same thread. So that is tip number 1. Okay, tip number 2. And I find that this works better if you have a dedicated sewing space, or a space where you can just keep your sewing machine set up all the time. But Brittany J. Jones, I will link her channel down below. She is so fabulous. She's one of my favorite people on the internet. I just really love her. She's just, her sunny disposition. She's just always uplifting. I just really love her. But she had a whole thing on Instagram of sewing in 30. And actually, she was following along Nancy Ziemann's book, which I think is Sew in 30 or something like that, and she gave away a couple copies of it and that kind of thing. But just about sewing in 30 minutes. If you can find 30 minutes each day and setting that aside, and even it's 30 minutes after you put the kids to bed, before you go to bed, just doing 30 minutes. And it doesn't even have to be 30 minutes. I put on here sewing in 15 to 20 minute increments. I find that I can get a lot done in that amount of time, especially when I'm waiting on children. So for instance, we have 30 minutes before we need to walk out the door. Well, I can come down here if I've got my machine set up, or if I don't have my machine set up, I can come down here and just set my machines up and have, the thread ready to go. If my cover stitch overlocker is set on, or my cover stitch machine is set on serge and I need to cover stitch, or vice versa, go ahead and get that flipped over, change the threads, get new needles in, and, basically prep for, the next day. Or I can come down here and sew a couple hems, or whatever. So definitely sewing in short increments. You will be shocked how much you get done at the course of the week, even if you have a hugely busy week. All right, tip 3 is having everything set, ready to go, laid out before starting your sewing project. So I love to do this. And again, this kind of goes with tip 2 a little bit, but if you're working on, let's say a button-down shirt, if you can, in 15-minute increments throughout the week, get the shirt cut out, get your pieces interfaced, get your machine set up, get, everything threaded, get all your tools together, have your buttons picked out and everything, and have it all sitting there. When Saturday rolls around and you have a few hours on Saturday to sew, you're gonna get so much more done because you can literally just sit down and sew. Okay, and with that, I also wanna talk about, I don't sew with pins. And that is Janet Prey's technique. It's the Islander technique, and she teaches classes on Blueprint about that, and I've taken some in-person classes with her as well. And you'll notice in my sew-alongs, and I've talked about it before, I don't sew with a lot of pins. Even setting in sleeves, I use a pin for the underarm, each notch, and the top of the sleeve, and that's kind of it. Unless I'm setting in a tailored sleeve. You're gonna see me putting in more pins for this tailored sleeve, only because you can kind of mold and form the wool. I love working with wool. I think I've said that a lot, but for the most part, I will maybe, pin a notch just to keep things in order, but not having to pin definitely takes a lot of the time, out of having to sew. And again, there's a way to do that. It's not just not putting pins in and just hoping for the best. So I'll link down below to Blueprint, and she's got, again, quite a few classes. And I don't use all of her techniques, but I use quite a few of them, and they really have sped up my sewing if that's something that interests you. So I'll put that down there. All right, number 4. I have found I have an addictive personality. That's just me. It's hereditary. My father also has an addictive personality, and I'm gonna say it's not always a bad thing. So by addictive personality, I mean when I dig into something, I can literally tune the world out. I can get stuck into something and I can have, it's like the opposite of ADD almost. I can really just focus. I can focus down. My daughter is the same way as well. Focus down and just get sucked into that. Now, with that being said, I have to be careful about what I'm putting in front of myself because, again, addictive personality. I can get addicted to binge watching television just as much as I can get addicted to a game on a phone. Reading books, that's not a bad thing, reading books, but I can definitely get tucked into a book, and my daughter is the same way, and literally turn the whole world out and spend an entire day reading a book, and then all of a sudden look up and realize, oh my gosh, that was 6 hours that I just sat here and read, if it's a good book. So I can use that for the good, or it can definitely be something I have to watch. For instance, TV and games. So I have to be very careful about there's no middle ground really. I either have to not watch TV or it's like binge watching. Now I will say that I do have my television on a lot of times in the sewing room for background noise. And honestly, we just got Disney Plus. Well, I think I said that. We got Disney Plus and we've got Roku's on our TV. We've completely gotten rid of cable. And I am totally reliving all of my childhood memories by rewatching the old Disney animated movies and literally singing along at the top of my lungs while I work. I'm really living my best life by being down here in my sewing room sewing, obviously not when I'm filming, but sewing and listening to Disney movies and singing along. It's been fantastic. So that is fine. I'm fine. I can do other things, but I have literally just cut out, I don't watch TV. And I have to stay off my phone because I can also get sucked into Instagram or Facebook or whatever. So I just have to be very diligent about my time. A lot of times I'll allow myself like 15 minutes. Like if I know I have to leave in 15 minutes, then I'll sit down, answer YouTube comments, but I have to have a time limit on that. So anyway, by cutting out TV and social media time, you'll be amazed how much time you have freed up, if that's important to you. If you would rather be sewing instead of what I found was just wasting time on things that weren't fueling my brain or working for my brain. All right, number 5, just set aside some time specifically for sewing. Like any other thing that's in your calendar. I find that I am a much happier person, a much better mom, much better wife, much better friend if I make sure that I am sewing. So even in the busy weeks, I have to set aside, and sometimes that means literally marking off a chunk, whether that be on a weekend or during the week, marking off an evening like I would if I had an appointment, basically, to do some creative sewing that's just for me. And I share everything on the channel, but it needs to be something that I can just spontaneously do, not something that I have to do because I said I was going to do it on the channel kind of type thing, because then sometimes it can feel like work. Typically, even if I am just creative, just making something off on a whim or whatever, I will still share it with you. So technically, it is still content for the channel, but I find that I just have to set aside that time, just like I would, working out or taking time to cook healthy meals, that kind of thing. I just have to make it a priority. And because again, it's for my mental health. And I've talked about it before. I struggle with anxiety, which then depression kind of goes hand in hand there. And I need sewing. I need that creative outlet. That is what keeps me mentally healthy. So that is tip number 5. Now, for all of this, while it's great to be able to be productive in your sewing and to make a lot of things, I want to talk about the wonderfulness that is slow sewing. And it's not about how many items you can make. It's not quantity over quality here. A lot of times, I really like to just sit down and get stuck into, a tailored jacket or making my mom's Jessica blazer. Taking my time, doing everything correctly. I still do maybe go faster than average, but there's nothing wrong with taking your time and doing things right the first time, because going fast, because I do go fast a lot, also can result in mistakes. And then you spend twice the amount of time because you have to unpick things and go back and do them again. So definitely definitely make time for the slow sewing, and it's not all about the speed. But I had just had a whole bunch of questions on how I managed to do that. So a typical day for me is I usually, I'll go through that just really quickly because again, I've just had questions. So I get up at, because people also ask, do you just never sleep? Oh, no, no, no. I have to have my sleep. I'm a monster if I don't have my sleep. Now I am an early bird. I get up at 5:15 in the morning because I like to have, you know, let the dog out, feed the dog, let her go to the bathroom, all that kind of jazz. And then I like to have 20 to 30 minutes and I sit and read my Bible every morning. And then I'm getting, you know, breakfast going, getting the kids out the door, all that kind of stuff, getting my husband out the door, all that kind of thing. Then I have my own coffee and breakfast. And typically in the mornings, I reserve for any kind of household chores. If I find that those are the things I don't want to do, so I need to do them first in the morning. So that's the grocery shopping, I get laundry started, any kind of house cleaning. I break my house up into zones. My husband makes fun of me. But when you break up your house into zones and you only have to sew one zone for a day, you know, or so, if you only have to clean one zone, and again, I also want to I keep my house picked up, but it does not get cleaned every week by any stretch of the means. Once a month, usually we're doing pretty good, but I will pick, you know, if Monday is zone 1, for instance, I just focus on that one small, which would be like my bedroom and bathroom. And just, I get that all cleaned and scrubbed. And that's all I do for that day. And then I'm done, and then I can come down and work on filming or sewing or, you know, because everything is going back to the channel right now. This is my full-time job. And then I work on that until 3:30. My kids get off the bus at 3:30, and that's when I need to be mom, especially those first 30 minutes, hour after they get home from school, because they're at an age now where they don't really need me physically as much, but mentally they do. And that is the time usually when they're dumping on me, and that I really need to be there listening, helping sort out emotional things that have gone on with the day so far, making sure everyone, you know, has a snack, and then, you know, they're off practicing their instruments, doing homework. They really don't need help with any of that. So then that's usually, again, maybe I'll come down and do a little bit more sewing, but I am usually, by the time we've had dinner, I'm done. Most of the time I'm chauffeuring children around, or, you know, we're just having family time and that kind of thing. Although in this stage of life, mostly it's just who's going to what activity. And then I'm in bed by 9. I do not sew well at night at all. So no, I do not stay up until all hours of the night. I sleep from 9 till 5:15, and that is, I have to have all that sleep. So there you go. That is kind of a typical Monday through Friday day for me. So I hope that helps. And I hope if you're struggling to find time to fit sewing in, that these 5 tips kind of help. And especially as we're coming into the holidays when things can just get really overwhelming, when you, maybe if you're like me and you need that creative outlet, that this would be a time to take a step back and fit some of that sewing in, and not gift sewing. You know, make sure you're setting aside, you know, don't kill yourself trying to make gifts for everyone. I don't make gifts for everyone. In fact, I'm making just a couple of things, small things, because I found I am much happier and can enjoy the holiday season if I just buy the gifts. And then I give people homemade stuff throughout the year. I just don't want to give myself that kind of a pressure because it just doesn't end well for me. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Remember to take time, enjoy the process, because it's more about the process really than the end result. At least I find that for me. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up this holiday season. Give this video a thumbs up if you like this type of content, and I'll see you guys on Friday. And I think on Friday, I have a pattern test I've been working on that I believe is being released on Friday. And if that is the case, I'm waiting to hear back from that. Then I will be showcasing that pattern and some styling ideas. It's a pattern I didn't know I needed in my wardrobe until I tested it, and I've been wearing it nonstop. So I was gonna do you know, different ways to wear this pattern, and then also just give a pattern review on it as well. So that's Friday, and then Sunday you've got another round of the sew along. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're in the US. Our Thanksgiving is on Thursday. So have a wonderful holiday. Enjoy time spent with family, and I will see you guys on Friday. Bye.